Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Mixed Tank live session. Thanks for being here. Pretty excited. If you are not familiar with this and you just found us on the YouTube homepage, welcome. This is Mixed Tank. This is a takeover. I'm taking over and I'm reviewing mixes live. So, Mixed Tank is kind of, we call it like a think tank for your mixes. So, on puremix.net, our site, we have a feature called Mix Tank. You can go on there and submit your mixes if you're a pro member, and the community gives you feedback based on the mix that you put and some notes that you enter into it, which you guys can see up here. There you go. I always get confused by the flip flop thing, but yeah. So people will leave mixes or comments on your mixes, and then you can take that back to the studio and refine things if you find it useful. So I'm going to be drawing tracks randomly today and listening through stuff and trying to give some helpful feedback. Before we get started, I've got some upcoming stuff for the Puremix Pro members, some announcements. So tomorrow, this is pretty exciting. Andrew Sheps has a video coming out on the site, which is an introduction to Atmos, so mixing in Dolby Atmos. And if you're not familiar with it, Andrew goes from knowing nothing to being able to do a mix in Atmos, even if you're just working in binaural, which you can do with any set of headphones if you have the correct software and everything. So he explains literally everything in this video, from everything from like what his setup is at home to how you can work in binaural, what binaural actually is, how the Atmos renderer handles crashing mixes down that were done on like a 9.1.6 system down to a stereo or like a 5.1, or how it all works. And it's a perfect overview to getting into the world of Atmos if you haven't done so yet. And then another announcement, it says very clearly up at the top of that screen over there, every Monday from 2:30, but I'm going to take a vacation. So I'm going to be gone next week, and the 2 weeks after that, I'll be back July 11th. But in between there, oh yeah, so we'll pick it back up weekly on July 11th, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. And then in between that, on June 29th, Fab DuPont is going to be doing a live stream. It's a pro member mix fix. And what those are is where Fab selects a track from the community and then mixes it live on the air, telling you exactly why he's doing what he's doing as he goes. And this one is going to be featuring a producer that's been on the site before in a start to finish series named Ill Factor. So Ill Factor, big YouTube personality and everything, and amazing producer. Like I said, there's a start to finish with Ill Factor and Jimmy Douglas on Puremix that you guys can check out. But Fab will be on with Ill Factor doing a pro member mix fix June 29th, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. July 1st, Andrew Sheps is going to be mixing Hosier's Movement in Atmos. So how does that work if you don't have Atmos? So you guys are going to be getting the binaural feed. This is not live. This is a video, mind you. So July 1st, Andrew Sheps mixing Hosier's Movement in Atmos. You'll listen in binaural, and Andrew explains exactly how he's doing Atmos mixes. So he opens up the Atmos mix from Hosier's Movement, explains everything that he does, and if you just any set of headphones will work for this. They don't have to be AirPods Max or anything like that. And you guys can listen and hear the binaural version of his mix and him explaining it and all that. This will be the first mixing video that we know of out there for Atmos. So pretty cool. July 5th, we're starting our mixing contest featuring Joe Ciccarelli and Alanis Morissette's Guardian. You guys can download the tracks, Alanis Morissette's tracks, done by Joe Ciccarelli, and remix the song for a chance to win a bunch of prizes from IK Multimedia, including Joe's new vocal strip plugin, as well as some other really awesome stuff. There's a Sunset reverb in there and the Fame Studio reverb, as well as some other things. It's a great prize package. So that's what's coming up in between when I'm going to peace out and go on vacation and when I come back. Pretty awesome stuff happening, and I'll see you guys again on July 11th, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Without further ado, let's listen to some music. So I just loaded up. This is how we're going to do this. I've got a bunch of tracks on the left. We've got a player up here, a comment window, and some info about the mix over on the right of the screen. So if you haven't seen this before, that's the layout. And what I'm going to do on every single track is just put a comment saying Mark was here with a link to the YouTube video. So if you're watching this later and you're wondering if your mix is on there, go check Mixtank, see if I left a comment, and then you can just skip to, find your song somewhere in the video. So we have a draw a track button. And to keep this fair, we're going to have a 5-minute cap for sure. But I'm going to try and listen to as much of the song as I can because so many things about a mix evolve from start to finish of it. But I want to keep this a community thing. So if you guys want to get to more songs and have me only go through the end of like the first chorus into the second verse, or maybe spot check the mix, let me know. We were kind of going back and forth last week about what would be the best format for it. So you guys let me know in the comments. And of course, that last thing is I have to do the YouTube thing and beg you guys to like and subscribe down below and ring whatever bells or whistles are on the platform that you're watching. So it's, YouTube, ring the bell and all that stuff. If you're on Twitch, I don't know, Twitch us. Yeah, Twitch us. All right, let's dive in. So I'm going to hit my draw a track button. I'm going to get a bunch of confetti. And this is a track from Foreplay by DJ Smile B. So over on the right, we've got some notes from him. So he says, this is the third mix after some great tips from you guys. I hopefully got the kick to punch and I added some depth to the lead and the chorus lead. I also backed off a lot of the reverb to get rid of some of the resonance on the back of the vocals. Cool. Let's check it out. Here we go.
Waited long for this day, been waiting. Now I got you where I want, lady. Stay right there. And it's time for us to see. Let me light the fire, let the urge set you free. Don't you move, don't you swerve. Baby, hush, don't say a word. Listen to your body say. Bring it here, baby. I've been waiting for the day. I can hear your body say, bring it here, baby. Hurry up and get to foreplay. We've been waiting for this day. Now I hear your body say, feels so good, baby. Hurry up and get to foreplay. Now it's time to begin on the journey where we never been.
I remember this from last week. This is the one where I was saying this is a PG show.
Gonna make your tension rise. Don't you worry, just be free. Expect explosion expeditiously. On our way till we reach ecstasy.
Awesome, DJ Smile. I'm going to jump to the end here and just check out the end of the track.
Baby, I can hear it say, ooh, baby, 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 baby. I've been patiently waiting, and I want you to.
Cool. Okay, so I remember this track from last week. So this is a new version, and I can tell it's come a long way. So great job. I do feel like the kick is punching better than what I remember from last week, and the vocals are not feeling as thin as they were last week as well. There's also less pitch issues than what I heard last week, so it sounds like you've dealt with some of that stuff. And just a reminder for everybody too, Melodyne Essential is included in your Puremix subscription, so make sure you guys are going and downloading all of the stuff that's in that bundle because it's amazing. But yeah, so still hearing some of the pitch issues and stuff like that I think you could tighten up a little bit more. Last week I talked a little bit about like playing out the melody on the piano and singing along with it at a slow tempo to kind of like practice before you go into singing the actual tracks. But that being said, I do feel like you've adjusted some of it from what I remember. So, cool. I would say just like maybe do another pass and tighten it up a little bit more. The, mid-range of the mix is still a little bitey to me. And I'm wondering if it's something that's on your 2-bus because the area of the vocal that jumps out, kind of like whoever made this comment before, the 2 to 3 area of the mix. So when the snare hits, there's a bit of like energy in that 2 to 3K area that comes out and just kind of like pokes my ear. And there's some of the consonants on your vocals are in that exact same range. So I'm wondering if it's over the entire mix or if it's on an individual level. Uh, some things that you can do to work with that are Soothe 2 is a great plugin. There's other ones too that are like dynamic EQ things that can soothe some of that stuff out. But before you jump into the dynamic EQ stuff and Soothe and the auto mixing type plugins, see if you can just EQ it yourself. If you have something like FabFilter's Pro Q3 or I'm trying to think what else does this. The Big Freak from Empirical Labs does it, and I think the stock EQ in Logic Pro does it, but I might be wrong. You can actually change the slope on your bell curve. So if normally like a bell curve is like this, obviously you have bandwidth that you can sharpen that, but you can change the slope. So I can't break my fingers to make it do it, but you could have, I'm trying though, but you could curve off the bottom of the bell and how it's actually pulling that. And I find that that's very useful for dealing with stuff like this. So check out the slope on a bell curve. Not just the bandwidth, but the actual slope of the curve. If you find a plugin that will do that for you, and you might be able to take some of the harsh stuff out. If you're having a hard time hearing that harsh stuff, AirPods are really, really good at hurting your ears. So I have a feeling that on AirPods that would really make itself known, or something a little bit smaller maybe, and just making sure that you're actually hearing the mix right. But overall, I think big improvement. Great job. And if any of you guys throughout any of these breakdowns and everything, if you guys have questions or you want to talk more about it, totally open to that. I'm going to be, like I said, I'll be on vacation for the next couple of weeks, but you can shoot me an email at mark@puremix.net. And if I can offer you more insight, I'm happy to do it. So I'm going to hit draw a track. Let's go to the next one. Good to see you guys in the chat. Moonburnt says that this is an NC-17 episode. I agree. After that one, that's awesome. Florent, you're going to miss an hour, but you'll be back at the end. Awesome. Doing drum lessons. They are important. Cool. Good to see you guys in the chat. We got Louise from Brazil. We got Ro B from Israel in here. Thanks for making it, guys. Martin from Quebec. All right. Let's do it. So our next one is, what is this? Ninu Daduin. Sorry for butchering it. I remember this song. Yeah, let me make sure I didn't already comment on this last week. Okay. We talked about this last week. I think this might be the same mix that we did last week. I just forgot to comment on it. So I'm going to put Mark was here June 13th. Watch on YouTube. And I'll go back and put the link up for him later. I must have forgot last week. Since we covered this last week on June 13th, Studio Jaman, I'm going to move on to the next one, but go back and check it out. So here we go. Tema 18 version 2.1 from Pablo. Okay, let's read some of our comments here from him. So, okay, I think it's better now. Definitely putting the drums in the center was better. I compose in Ableton Live and it can be very misleading when it comes to exporting tracks. Yes, it can. Okay, I was also trying to work with 2 drum loops panned left and right, adding some kicks in the snare in the middle, but I think I only serve to complicate things. So back to the classics, kick drum and snare in the middle. Thank you. Cool. Let's try it out from the top. Here we go. Hey, Primetime. Awesome, Pablo. Nice work. Cool. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is the drums and the punch of them. This is a really cool track. Nice job putting it together. There's yeah, so it says you were working with two drum loops pan left and right. So I'm hearing two kick drums in the song, and I think that there's two basses going on too, but it's a little hard to make out in there. There's some clouding going on, not only in the low end, but some of the low mid stuff that I'm like struggling to find detail with. But I don't think the bass comment I'm going to have has to do with the main bass guitar in the middle. So or the bass sound in the middle. So the kick drum, the main one, feels like it could be punchier. And Tom pointed out on here, parallel compression is a cool way to do that. He likes the DBX 160 or 33609. So the 160 is known for adding a lot of like smack and attack on top of your transient, which is really cool for that. Another one that I like to use is a distressor with a fast release, slow attack, and just making it really, really smacky in the parallel. You know, same kind of idea, but then blending it in for more punch of it. You can also just check to see what's going on with resonance in the kick itself. Sometimes you can have a resonant or a harmonic of the note that is lingering on longer than the fundamental and causing that note value to just be extended. So if you think about how long, like what is the note value of the kick drum, first addressing that and tightening it up, however you need to, compression, gating, maybe, it depends on what it is, but just getting the note value correct and then doing things like parallel and stuff like that to add more attack to it, not sustain in this case, but attack, and that would help separate it. I do think that you have like an 808 sounding kick on top of it there. They might have different note values, and the 808 might be masking the normal, like the main kick of the song as well. So make sure that those things are playing well together. Check phase on them too. You might have a little bit of like phasing issue. Something is happening that's making it so those are very blurry. So we want to make those more focused and punchy, and popping through the mix. Same thing with the basses. There was on some of the notes, I feel like the low end blooms out and it's very fat. And then when it moves back up the scale and the fundamental goes up, everything kind of like doesn't get thin, but it's not as big as it is when it's on some of like the lower notes in there. So you might want to try high passing whatever that lower bass sound is, just to tighten it up a little bit. Then next thing is to just talk about the mid range a little bit. So on the section where things get a little bit quieter on our graph here, around 1 minute, the lead synth that pops out there is very bitey compared to the rest of the track. One thing that's cool about that is it's very exciting, but you need to achieve the excitement without all of the bite and having it come out and poke like the ear uncomfortably. So yeah, I would say like just check out the 2 to 5K on there. The that synth returns in the final chorus, and it doesn't feel as harsh there, but there's still a little bit of build up in that area that's making it a little bit unpleasant or uncomfortable. I don't know if the volume just came down or if it's just blending in with the mixes or if it's all the compression of the track that's like kind of pushing it down. So just check that out. I think it's probably automated, but yeah. And then overall, I think like the lead vocal, or I'm sorry, the lead synth line could probably have a little bit more space around it. So you might want to like try getting creative with short delays, like even Haas effects, tightness. So like 20, 30 milliseconds somewhere in there, like really, really tight, just to add a little bit of space around that synth and make it more interesting. Reverb, short delays, micro shift is a cool trick for it, just like bringing it up a little bit underneath just to add some space around it. That can be pretty cool, but it's all taste as well. Same thing with the vocal sample. There's a vocal sample that's just like one note, and then I was thinking on that, I would have probably, like if I was dealing with it, I might have done a pre-delay on a verb that would cause like the note to come out and then the reverb to come up around it and bloom around it and wrap it, something like that. So yeah, great track. I'm gonna drop my comment here, move on to the next one. Okay, draw a track. Let's see what we got here.
and stare behind those eyes. What else you got in there? 'Cause you make me feel like I should learn to stop time. I will give you this life that I'm in if you show me the other side. 'Cause the girl's what I want. I stand outside in the rain. 'Cause the girl's what I want. I take the physical pain. 'Cause the girl's what I want. At the end of the day, the girl's what I want. You see this world that we're living in, I see all other life just giving in. 'Cause you're so hot that you could turn sun blind. On the mysteries of love and fear, she's got me working through the night. 'Cause the girl's what I want. I take the fortune and fame. 'Cause the girl's what I want. Don't need the critics acclaim. 'Cause the girl's what I want. At the end of the day, the girl's what I want. 'Cause the girl's what I want. 'Cause the girl's what I stay up all night and day. 'Cause the girl's what I want. Give all my money away. 'Cause the girl's what I want. At the end of the day, the girl's what I want. 'Cause the girl's what I stand outside in the rain. 'Cause the girl's what I want. I take that physical pain. 'Cause the girl's what I want. There's not much left to say. The girl's what I want.
It's awesome. It just falls over. Yeah, man. Cool. Awesome track. Lead vocal is killer on that. That's awesome. In the notes, you say this is a song from Cambridge, from the Cambridge website. I think that's a site with a bunch of multi-tracks if people are looking for it. There you go. Here, I'll do one of these. Boom, boom, boom. Nope, that's not working. All right. There's the site. Might be able to go get that multi-track and play with it if you want to. So yeah, let's dive in from the top here. That vocal was great. The groove of the track's really cool too. So my initial thoughts, I'll go from my thoughts from the beginning of the track, and that's that the bright piano's super cool, super exciting, maybe just a hair too bitey. So I'm feeling a ton of compression in this track overall. It might be a little over compressed and the attack might be a little bit slower. The compressor's not getting there quick enough and those transients they were coming out and biting me a little bit. And that's kind of an overall comment for the track too, is that it feels extremely bitey and very mid-rangey, high mid-rangey. So the painful stuff, the Apple AirPod stuff. So yeah, maybe just check that out. I don't know if, again, this could be a number of things. I think there's some overcompression going on. Could be mixed bus EQ. And on a larger level, it could be that your monitors aren't telling you the whole picture and you can't hear that stuff very well. So yeah, I think just just check that out. Again, find a pair of speakers that, one, tell you the whole picture, but if you aren't hearing the bitiness stuff, try it out on small earbuds, and it'll likely be painful. So yeah, maybe just check it in a couple spots. But yeah, the rest of the track compared to the lead vocal is very spacey. So the lead vocal feels very dry and centered and cool, and that's a vibe. But the rest of the track is like this huge thing, and then I feel like the vocals just like sitting out separated and not glued to the mix. So you might want to play with like a little bit of effects. Things don't have to feel affected to glue them in, though. Like, I'm not saying add long reverb, tails onto it. Sometimes you can get away with sneaking in like a slap delay right behind the vocal it'll kind of glue it. Sometimes it pops it out of the mix a little bit too, so you have to play. But some other things would be like short slap delays left and right. Those can help sit the vocal back a little bit. And again, it's not audible in a way that like you're hearing everything, kind of slapping left and right and all that. But just using those things to glue the track together with that lead vocal can help out a lot. But I dig the dry vibe too. So again, like, I wouldn't go crazy with it. Just a little something to make the vocal sit better. Lead guitar at 1 minute is stepping on the vocal a hair. So I think it's the first chorus. I felt like that lead vocal and the guitar are both right up the center, and the guitar once in a while is just kind of like poking in front of the lead vocal. So I do this a lot. I talk about like depth and where does the vocal sit in terms of the snare and all that. So what I'm hearing is like the lead vocal's parked right here, and every once in a while in the guitar melody, it'll like sneak forward and like just get right in front of the vocal just a little bit. So another thing like I harp on is the lead vocal is telling the story. In most cases, you want to hear that story unless you are being very intentional that you want the lead vocal to be covered up at times and feel like he's getting sucked up by the intensity of the track or something, or maybe just be harder to hear. But in this case, I felt like you wanted the lead vocal to be heard, but the electric guitar was just kind of sticking out in front of it and being a little distracting at times. So I was thinking you could just pan it off to the side just a little bit in that section so the lead vocal has his own space to live in, or just watch the compression and everything on that lead vocal and keep it kind of tucked back. More importantly too, which I should probably like bring up more often on here, is the power of automation. Just put your hand on the fader and just kind of watch for it. If you feel like it's sneaking out at parts, just write a little bit of automation and keep it in place. That should definitely be a go-to thing more than just reaching for the compressor and trying to solve it there. If you can solve it with automation, sometimes that's the best way to do it. So and that guitar is just a little bitey at times. At 208, coming out of the bridge section, I think there's a snare roll that is programmed on top of it, and I feel like the whole groove falls apart because of the way that the sample is being triggered. I think that you've triggered drums on top of this multi-track from what I can tell from it, but I'm not totally sure either if they're just programmed drums throughout. But yeah, the level that the snare drum is being played at in the roll is not natural, and it's just kind of made the groove feel like it was falling apart a little bit to me. So check out, if you are doing triggers, check out that it's not just doing 127 velocity all of the time and playing the loudest sample, and that it's actually doing some more natural stuff based on, threshold and how loud the actual snare is being hit. And just anything that you can do to make the sampled drums sound more realistic. Big thing I noticed with sampled drums is that when you have a sample of a tom ringing out, it just goes on for like 2 bars sometimes, and it doesn't feel natural. That's not the way that you would hear it if the drummer struck it in the context of the kit. So you can watch for, if you print those sampled tracks, you can even do edits and just say like, man, this tom really should be gone after a bar, and just cut it and, edit with the grid, draw a crossfade using the grid so it's a musical note value, and just make sure that the note duration is matching the track and like the performance of the actual part, and not just ringing on forever because the sample doesn't end or bring itself down. So you have to do a little bit more stuff just to make those drums feel more natural. The other thing is just making them share a common space. samples shouldn't just be dry and poke out of the mix either. Like try to put them into a common reverb or common room sound. At the very end, I felt like the drums were super wide, almost like they were spreading on them. There was a fill that like the drummer would have like been going all the way like this or whatever to get it across. So I would say like just to make it more natural again, like maybe check out where those toms are panned and keep them inside of a natural space on it. Doesn't mean you have to be super realistic with everything. And sometimes this is really awesome too. So yeah, cool. I hope that helps. The overheads were also a little bit harsh, especially in the end. That's where everything was kind of getting jumbled up and there was a little bit of over compression, but I hope that helps. And great job though. Like the track has energy. There's times where it's grooving really well, and I feel like you're getting really close to all those things. So I don't necessarily think it's like a start from scratch thing. I think it's just like a kind of revisit what's there and ask yourself some questions. Really to the mix, not about like life or anything like that. You don't have to get super heavy with it. So okay, here we go. I'm gonna draw a track. Let's see how you guys are doing in the chat actually. So Martin says cool vibe, good mix. Is it a bit quiet? That one was a little bit louder than the last one. What I want is cool drums to do weird things sometimes. Yeah, heck yeah. Yeah, and again, like maybe that's where the wide tom fill works out. So that was from Primetime Robots. Hi, Dennis in the chat. And Des Sherwood Guitar Tuition says, this sounds great. So there you go. Lots of people digging it. All right, let's go on to the next track here. Here we go. Just Try It from Alex White. And he says, hey, you awesome people. I'd just love to get some fresh ears on this mix and get any feedback that you think might be relevant. Thank you so much. Here we go, Alex.
The wheels are in motion. Ignition is on. There's no turning back now. I know where I belong. And the only one who can change it is me. You just try it. You can't change my mind. I started on this journey, so I may as well leave you behind. Yeah, I'm pushing deeper and following my heart. You just tried it. You don't play a part. I've dealt with my demons, though they sometimes appear like ghosts in the garden, or dust on the mirror. Oh, I'm moving up now with strength from inside, and I don't apologize if that hurts your pride. 'Cause the only one who can change it is me. You just try it. You can't change my mind. I started on this journey, so I may as well leave you behind. Yeah, I'm pushing deeper and following my heart. You just try it. You don't play a part. For so long I was sitting in the dark, just a slave to a situation. When the clouds cleared, I could see myself. Where were you? Where were you? The wheels are in motion. Ignition is on. There's no turning back now. I know where I belong. I may as well leave you behind. Yeah, I'm pushing forward and following my heart. You just try it. You don't play a part.
Awesome. Great job, Alex. I totally dig the track. And you've got some sounds in here that are super interesting. This is going to be a really cool track when it's done. And yeah, that's great. Very cool. I love the the fuzz sound that you have in verse 2, and I think it's like a guitar that you've done like a stutter edit to. That's super super cool. The I love stuff like that. I'm like a huge Vance Powell fan who his like love for germanium fuzz guitar pedals is insane, and it reminds me of that stuff where it's just like that thing sounds broken and it's awesome. So yeah, love that sound. The first thought I had was in the beginning, like you get a sonic picture from those two guitars that are happening, the double track guitars. And when the main track dropped, I felt a bit of a disconnect from what my ears were sort of tuned to by those guitars, because they're basically saying like, here's like kind of what this track sounds like. It gives you a very distinct sonic picture. And then when the drums came in, the mono feel and the sampled drum machine kind of vibe. Something about like the low end extension and the mid range of it didn't totally match with that, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either. Overall, I think that this track, I think you'd be doing it a service if you tried doing some real drums in there. And this is all taste, of course, but you have like an electronic feel to it, which I think is awesome, and could also be layered with real drums. So you could kind of keep that same vibe, and I think you'd end up with something really unique, especially because you have those stutter edits going on the guitar in like verse 2 and verse 3, I think, too, as well. That gives it like the electronic feel. But I think like pulling it also back to the fuzz guitar thing would kind of add like a little connection between the tones, the style of the music, but also adding in this modern like electronic kind of feel that's, not necessarily super modern electronic, because they kind of feel like old drum machines, but I think like you could tie those things together even more and pull it in. I think that would also help out some elements that are happening in the mix, like in the low end and stuff like that. But overall, it's super awesome. The lead vocal feels a little bit thin to me. There is some resonance, some sibilant stuff, but more specifically, there's a very specific resonance that's happening, like again, 2 to 4K. And I promise I'm like in no way or is Puremix sponsored by OX Sound Sooth 2, but that thing would totally deal with that if you needed it to. And if you can't deal with it with something else first. That's kind of a thing that I have about those types of plugins. But yeah, so back specifically to that overdriven fuzz guitar stutter edit, after the stuttered like the note that happens right after that has a resonant peak to it, and it pops out of the speakers a little to me. So that might be something to check out, like in that edit, does it feel consistent? Yeah, it just feels like there's a little resonance in the lower note. So overall, great though. I think that there's a really cool vibe to this track, and great job, Alex. It's super cool. So all right, good luck. Let me put my comment on here. And yeah. Primetime Robot says, just try it. Super cool style. Would be even better if less bright. The second vocal could also be moved to their left. Cool. Or if you guys get obsessed with Atmos, you could put it above you. We'll save that for another day. Okay. Draw a track. Confetti. Okay, this is from Timothy0103. The name of the song is Doctor, and version 1.1. This is jazz. Let's check it out.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, I should have kissed you, not dismissed you. Whoa. But I thought I'd lose you. I may amuse you. Oh. And all of the moonlight sparkling down from the sky. Blue diamonds in your eyes. Taste the sweetness of your smile. dead roses, all the wine. I smell dead roses, dead roses in your hair. Can you smell roses?
Cool groove on that melody line.
In the air, yeah. Well, you said you're tired, but girl, I'm so wired. Oh no, 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 no.
I feel like we're missing the vocal here. Okay, we'll skip this section.
Smell dead roses, dead roses in your hair. Can you smell roses like candy in the air? Na, 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 na. Yeah. Ah, ooh.
Nice. Oh, the air on that vocal at the end there. That's cool. Okay, yeah, nice song. I'm gonna comment just a little bit on the production real quick. So, and then we'll talk mix. But yeah, all production things are just taste and not necessarily the opinion of Puremix. But there's the disclaimer. But I feel like the groove is getting a little bit loose as it goes through. Especially felt it in the beginning. So not really sure like what the overall status of the track is, if we're like in a demo state or not. It feels like a demo to me of a song that could end up being really, really cool. Overall thought. That's like what I pictured when I was hearing it. The verse 2 or verse 3, where I kind of commented that I feel like the verse vocal was missing there. I think either it was muted or there's space in there for something else, like a solo. Overall, I think that there's a lot of space at the end of the song where, you know, some soloing stuff might happen. I'm not sure in the middle, like where you put it. That's all up to you as a songwriter and all that, obviously. But yeah, there's a hole somewhere in the middle there that's missing some stuff. My ear wanted to hear some B3, like some organ stuff happening in there, just you know, because it's part of the style. But this had a real like Wallflowers kind of feeling to me, like Jacob Dylan and all that. I love the vocal. I think the performance is cool. It's a little sibilant at times, and overall, like other mix considerations, everything feels very dry to me, which is a style and totally cool, but it feels like there's no space around it. So I'm feeling the effects of being in a very, very dead room with mics close on things. Whereas I imagine this feeling a little bit more live, not like huge, but having some space around it, a little bit of like a room sound around it. So again, like I'll say this 1,000 times every week probably, but Ocean Way Studios is really great for that, just giving like a commonality to everything and making it feel like it's all being done in the same spot. The vocal was a little bit harsh, and that was some of the sibilant stuff. the the drums also felt like they had a ton of attack on them, and part of that's from being probably like very close mics, or like thin, or it's compression settings that are going on. Sonic Lab here commented that it feels like a transient shaper might be on there, and it does sound like an SPL transient designer, like with a lot of attack turned up or something like that. So just watch out to make sure that those things are all feeling natural, especially for this style. I feel like you want drums with a lot of tone and feeling natural. Check out the groove on them. Yeah, and overall though, I think that the track's really cool. The only other thing I had was the transitions from verse to chorus. I feel like those have to be extremely strong, right? Like we need to feel like the scene is changing and we're entering into this new thing. Especially the lyric can inform that too. Like you have a section in the verse that's telling us part of the story. The chorus is the main theme of the song and of the story. So as we're transitioning from I'm telling you part of the story to here's what the story is about, we kind of need to feel it. Not necessarily elevate. Things don't always have to get bigger, but we need to feel the scene change and give us a little bit of just a little bit of difference between it. So we're going on a journey, basically. Yeah, those are the thoughts I had from the first listen. But I think it's awesome, Timothy, and like you're on the way to something really cool. Great job by the vocalist again. This is cool. Lots of great singers today. Okay, draw a track. How you guys doing in the chat? Primetime Robot says sometimes the drums are a bit ahead, but it all sounds nice. Could it have been a little wider and a little more guitar? Yeah. Paul Martin says, nice tune. Would be nice to hear some dynamics between sections to distinguish parts a little bit more. Yep, totally agree. And would definitely love to hear a push on that last chorus and outro as the song resolves. Yeah, definitely. Yep, flaming double hits going on. Yeah, check out just the pocket of the drums on that last one too. Okay. This next song is from Steve76. And Steve says, here's my cover of the French version of The Windmills of Your Mind. Looking forward to your feedback. Thanks a lot. Here we go.
Comme une pierre que l'on jette dans l'eau vive d'un ruisseau et qui laisse derrière elle des milliers de ronds dans l'eau, comme un manège de lune avec ses chevaux d'étoiles, comme un anneau de Saturne, un ballon de carnaval, comme le chemin de ronde que font sans cesse les heures, le voyage autour du monde d'un tournesol dans sa fleur. Tu fais tourner de ton nom tous les moulins de mon cœur. Comme un écheveau de laine entre les mains d'un enfant, ou les mots d'une rengaine pris dans.
I want to stop here and point out something just for everybody to listen to and see if you agree with me. But on the acoustic guitar, we'll talk about the spatial stuff that's happening with it in a second. But the acoustic guitar has a compressor on it. It feels like an 1176 to me with a bit of like a slow release thing. So the low note of that guitar, when he hits the low note, I feel like the compressor is just going boom and then bringing it back up. And we're hearing a lot more of the individual notes of the fingers besides the low note. So the other part of the chord, which feels really great. But that low note gets, I understand why you would do it, because you're trying to probably take down all of the energy from that low note. My guess is that that low note was overpowering and too loud. So you use the compressor, it kicks the low note back and you hear the rest of the chord, which is great. I feel like it's taking it too far though. And it feels a little unnatural now because the low note is actually quieter. You can tell from the timbre of it, it's being struck harder than the rest of the chord, but it feels quieter than the rest of the picking of the chord. So this is a case where I feel like it's overcompression, but also possibly just like too fast of an attack, or you need to raise the threshold, or in the case of an 1176, do one of these. So, yeah, check it out. I'll take it from back here and then see if you hear it. Here we go.
Comme un écheveau de laine entre les mains d'un enfant, ou les mots d'une rengaine pris dans les harpes du vent, comme un tourbillon de neige, comme un vol de goéland sur des forêts de Norvège, sur des moutons d'océan, comme le chemin de ronde que font sans cesse les heures, le voyage autour du monde. D'un tournesol dans sa fleur, tu fais tourner de ton nom tous les moulins.
It's a beautiful
de mon
performance.
cœur. Ce jour-là, près de la source, Dieu sait ce que tu m'as dit, mais l'été finit sa course, l'oiseau tomba de son nid, et voilà que sur le sable, nos pas s'effacent déjà, et je suis seul à la table, qui résonne sous mes doigts, comme un tambourin qui pleure, sous les gouttes de la pluie, comme les chansons qui meurent, aussitôt qu'on les oublie, et les feuilles de l'automne rencontrent des ciels moins bleus, et ton absence leur donne la couleur de tes cheveux. Comme une pierre que l'on jette dans l'eau vive d'un ruisseau et qui laisse derrière elle des milliers de ronds dans l'eau, au vent des 4 saisons, tu fais tourner de ton nom tous les moulins de mon cœur.
Yeah, cool. I love the recording of this. It's great performances, and the hiss that's on the track. There's some noise in there, and it feels great. So if you resolve a little bit of that over compression in the guitar, I hope the noise doesn't go away because I actually like it a lot. But yeah, so the like I mentioned the guitar compression thing already. I think that needs to be backed off a hair, but I get what you're going for. I get why you're doing it. So just play with those settings and see if you can make it feel a little bit more natural. The lead vocal feels a hair over compressed to me as well. It gets a little bit boxy and mid-rangey, so maybe just trying to add a little bit of clarity by taking away some of like the low mids, or just really just kind of searching for a point. So if you have something like a Pro Q3, like the FabFilter Pro Q3, you can solo up a band and you can kind of scan around for things. And as you scan through some of the notes, you'll feel notes jump out to you that almost sound like feedback in a PA system or something. They'll just kind of like get woofy and pop out. And a lot of times that's a good place to go look for things that are getting like there's a term called masking. So it sounds like they're masking things, and it's just because it's a resonance that builds up, comes over and takes over. The same way that feedback happens in a PA system, where like once it starts to feedback, it just masks everything because it's blowing your eardrums out and taking over everything in the speaker system. So yeah, I would just like search for a couple of EQ points that you can kind of pull, maybe to clear some of that up, and maybe some other ones that help you make the vocal speak a little bit better too. That's a John Paterno phrase. Where does it make the vocal speak? But yeah, and then overall, so who was it? Let's see. Somebody said that it feels, lots of comments for this one. Everybody likes this. Oh, Anthony, it's your song. That's amazing. Yeah, cool. You're talking about the transients and making them feel smoother. So Primetime Robot said it feels like there's kind of a blanket over the guitar. I would say that it feels like it's kind of on everything. And it looks like Sonic Science Lab mentioned that it is sounding a little odd spatially. Artificial manipulation. Then you responded that it's hard to find the best way to widen a mono recorded guitar. Can't use 2 mics as vocal would spill, cause big phase issues, but I'll keep experimenting. So the widening that's happening here does feel a little bit odd to me and like out of phase. It's like a phase trick that's happening. And I feel it on the vocal as well. So I don't know if there's a little bit of a phase thing happening between those two mics, and then it's being widened on top of it. But I wonder if this needs to feel big too. Like maybe it would be cool if this was a more intimate, tighter sounding thing, and you have mono point sources, and maybe you just have the guitar off a little bit to the right or something, and keep the vocal in the center. Depending if they're recorded at the same time, you're going to have some weird stuff happening. But see what happens if this is like a drier, more intimate thing. And not super wide, and maybe you get your width from doing like a small room reverb and adding some ambience around it that's not necessarily pulling your ear to it. Maybe the listener doesn't even really know that there's any kind of reverb or space on it. It's just there to make things feel a little bit more natural, like you're sitting in a space instead of listening to two microphones that are really close like this. But yeah, I think like there's some things that you could probably do without doing spatial width stuff on it. Let's see. So Primetime says, Super Voice, you have to listen to the song with your eyes closed. Yeah, absolutely. Very nice song. Anthony, you said you have problems with the transients. They seem aggressive to my ear, but I don't know how to make them smoother. So yeah, I think like that, just checking out the compressor and your attack and release settings, it's something that like can take a while to hear sometimes, but ultimately, if you think about like why you compressed that guitar, my hunch is that you did it because the low note was sticking out beyond the rest of the part, beyond the rest of the chord. So you're like, I need to control the dynamics of this more. If you bypass that compressor and just listen to it, if you find that the low note is the thing that's sticking out and that's bothering you, then I would hone in on that as you're going to solve the problem. So first deciding like, this feels too dynamic. Well, why does it feel too dynamic? Is it because I can't hear the soft stuff, but the low stuff is super loud? And if so, let's do things to address that. It could happen with EQ first, and it could be a compression thing. If you're doing a compressor thing, like not to like keep pimping the Puremix plugin suite, but to pimp the plugin suite, the Pulsar 1178 has an EQ sidechain on it that's very customizable. So you could actually go into that sidechain and like find out where that low note is, give it a little bit of a boost, and make the compressor trigger to just that. So it would just be like, I'm just going to compress when the low note hits. And then you just play with your attack and release settings until it feels natural and like you're getting a better balance of the guitar part and solving the problem that you're compressing with. So, okay. Daniela says there might be some distortion in the louder parts. Yeah, possibly. Not always bad. Love it. I think the David Crosby acoustic sound would be a great reference for this gentle vocal. Yeah, so Paul says David Crosby acoustic sound. You submitted a mix. So you're a pro member. There's a video of Fab mixing David Crosby on the site. That might be a good reference for it. And nice. There's a lot of French happening. Okay, and yeah. Okay, cool. There's some good comments in the chat too, so watch for those. So I appreciate everybody chiming in too. This is great. Great song. That performance is stellar. Keep working on it because you're on the way to something really cool. Here we go. Next track. There's a confetti. And this is the one we just listened to. Let's do it again. What are the odds? Okay. Crappy Neighbors. Revision sound. Just testing the waters with some funk arranging, recording, and mixing. Let me know what you think points out as crap. None of it's crap, except for these neighbors. All right, here we go. Hi-hat solo at the end. Come on, guys, give the hi-hat some. All right. Awesome. Very cool, man. This is awesome. Couple performance notes on it. I love the drum pocket. That feels really, really tight. The rhythm guitar that's happening on the left here, it's kind of like plucking along with the pattern. I think needs to be a little bit tighter with that loop. Once in a while, it would kind of lose it, and the groove would go from feeling really, really tight to a little bit washy. And then same thing with our like staccato-y guy that's happening on the right. Just make sure that those are a little bit more locked into the loop if you're going for like that tight funk kind of feel. Sonically, I think that you're on the right track for sure. All of it feels like it's in the same vein. It doesn't feel like something is not of the genre at all. The organ that comes in gets super, super, super wide. So there's like a phase thing going on because it wrapped around my head and came like way outside of my speakers and felt like it was all in Atmos. So I would get rid of that, just make that thing sound more natural, especially for this style. Everybody feels like they're in the same room, which is great, but it feels like a very natural recording. So if the organ starts doing phase wrapping tricks and all kinds of stuff, that just pulls me right out of the song, out of the performance, and I want to be able to focus in on what the musicians are playing. The drum pocket, I'd love to hear that up a little bit in the mix and like really kind of lock everybody down. It's all about the groove with the style. So let's get the drums like kind of up front a little bit more. Play with like snare kick relationship and all that, but just whatever makes the groove feel great. The groove is the lead vocal in this arrangement, in this piece, right? So it's got to feel great. When the piano sound comes in toward the end, that felt a little unnatural to me. Like I wanted to hear a Rhodes thing. You have like a whirly kind of thing going on. I wanted to hear something in that same electric keyboard kind of vein happening there. The sound of the piano and everything also pulled me out of the track a little bit. So I'd say just like choose a more genre appropriate sound, or maybe it was just some processing that was happening there. But overall, I feel like this is awesome. And yeah, I believe that your neighbors are crappy. So that's great. You sold me. Cool. Good luck with it, Revision. That's great. I'm going to leave a comment. Let's see. Yeah. Still some good comments coming in from the last track, so everybody dug that performance. Tom says something about selling it to your wife. Good luck with it. Okay, you guys are talking gear. I got it. All right, drawing a track. I didn't hit play. Hold on. Let's read the notes. This is from James Chi. And he says, I struggle to know how to balance instrument levels. I like the overall feel, but the vocals get lost sometimes, even with automation. Sure, it's lots of issues. Any general advice is welcome. Thanks. James is level passionate. And this is track status is the final mix. So Rain on Me. I don't think that we've talked about this one yet. It's from 13 days ago, so there's a chance. Let's check it out.
Rain on me. I need to feel your breath through my tree. Through my leaves. Rain on me.
couple little rhythm things happening here in the drums. Cool. I think you got a really cool thing going with this track. You guys can see I pulled up an EQ on the screen. I'm going to show you something just because I've been talking about it so much, and I want to explain what I mean here. So I'm just going to put this right there. And yeah, so let's talk about this track first. I think you've got a really cool chorus melody thing going on here. I'd like to see some more development in the verses for what's going on, like what's raining down on you. I just want to know more about the story. Um, so yeah, I mean, everything is, it's art, it's subjective and all that. So you do your thing, but, I feel like the chorus feels awesome. I love the groove of the guitar and the melody that's over top of it. I think you got something really neat happening here. Um, the groove of the drums, where I kind of mentioned toward the end there, feel like they fall off a little bit. The leader of the groove here is that acoustic guitar. It feels like it's in a pocket. It feels good. The drums felt like they lost the pocket around it. So something to check out there. Might be able to fix that with editing, but just make sure that they all kind of lock in together and feel like a unit, and that they're supporting the main character of the story, basically. So I want to talk a little bit about the intro guitar line here. And I've kind of said a couple times about like finding resonances and all that. And I mentioned like the slope of an EQ. So I'm just going to show you what I mean by that very quickly here. So I'm going to hit play and we'll do a little thing. Okay, so the way that this is set up, I actually can't hear what I'm doing, so I can't really make a good example of it. But this is the slope thing that I was talking about, and this happens if you right click on the band of the EQ and go to slope. And if I just change this guy to like 48 dB per octave, you guys can see how it got tighter around the bell, the bottom of the bell. And I'll just show you what an even tighter one looks like. And here's like 96 dB as that. And then here's another spot you can change the curve of that too, right? So you have your bandwidth, but you also have the slope of this curve going down to the main frequency point that you've selected. So I would find some spots that feel like that. You can play with the slope of things to make them a little bit more transparent as you're cutting them, rather than just doing a sharp Q with like a 6 dB slope, which is what 12 dB, which is what the natural is. Sometimes you can get a little bit more specific by increasing the slope of that. But yeah, I would just find some of those overtones that aren't necessarily notes of the chord and just clean up that guitar a little bit as you go. So hopefully that makes sense. I love this EQ because, again, like you can solo the band as you're kind of looking around. If your ears, like there's some superhumans out there that can be like, oh, that is 333 hertz. But if your ear's not quite there yet, this is a great tool. You can hold down the headphone button, and then I'm holding down command, and I can kind of like play with the bell as I'm searching for things. And sometimes that's a way to, if you're like, it sounds woofy and there's like a buildup in the low mids 200 area, you're like, okay, well, let me kind of zero in on it. And then you can get things a little bit more natural by doing more specific cuts. So that's all I got about that. I think it could use a little bit of cleanup on aisle 9 though for that acoustic guitar. Just get some of those overtones that aren't really in the chord, and they're like kind of stealing from the harmonic structure of it, and just clean up that guitar a little bit. Let's just check out this section real quick. I want to listen to the vocal. Hold on. Okay, yeah, the vocals, it's a little bit thin there. Tom Poolery put out some good comments about that I think are great. You should check those out. Looks like you already have because you replied to it. But I struggle to know how to balance instrument levels. So just to talk about that real quick, I've kind of touched on this the last 2 weeks too, but it's going to be a common theme. You have to be intentional about where you want things to exist in the mix, and I think that this is a pretty good example of this, where I don't think that the mix is being thought of in a depth way, so not in a 3D way. I feel like we just kind of are like dealing with a left-right plane here, and the way that I figure out balances a lot of times is you have to decide who the main player of the movie is, of the song, of the scene, and everybody needs to be supporting that guy usually, right? Like not all the time. There are no absolutes, because then you're a Sith, and Obi-Wan's on TV right now. You can't have absolutes, all of that stuff. So let's say that you do though, and your lead vocal and your acoustic guitar in this case are of similar or equal importance. So maybe the acoustic guitar is a little less important and the vocal sits just a hair in front of that. And you're basically telling the listener, here's who you listen to right now. This guy is also very important. These drums back here, they're just keeping a groove and they're keeping a beat so that things keep moving, but they're not that important. So I'm putting them, if you imagine you're looking at a stage, you've got the singer close to you, you got either he's playing the acoustic and it's a little bit behind his mouth, or somebody else is playing the acoustic right next to him or slightly behind him. And then behind that, you've got the drum kit, right? And the drum kit is filling up the back of the room, like of the instrumentation. And not like I really don't mean to make it seem like you should always imagine things being on stage, but if he's filling up the back wall, his space, it could be his reverb, the shape of like the sound of his drums in the room, all of that stuff is filling up the back wall. And that's as far as the track goes back into the speakers, right? So if you're looking at your speakers, you're shooting back down the mix. If you've got a wall behind your speakers, that's like the back wall. Who's living on that back wall? And then where is your vocal? So I always imagine like, here's my lead vocal, and then maybe my face is like the back wall, right? So drums are back here, but everybody else is up here. I think that vibe is pretty cool for this track, where you've got like these roomy drums, but then this tight acoustic guitar, and the vocal kind of up there. But in terms of figuring out instrument levels, these are the things that inform that. Having intention and just being like, where do I hear these elements existing inside of the track? Are the drums loud and they're keeping the groove, like the funk song where it's like, he's a star, the groove's the star, the groove of the track is the star, so everything needs to support that, and like drums should feel like pretty tight and up front? Or is it this case where they're just kind of like booming extension low end things that just fill up space? So in this case, I would use that to figuring out my balance by saying lead vocal lives up front, drums are going to be quieter, they're in the back. I'm not hearing the snare right behind the vocal, I'm not hearing it in front of the vocal, I'm hearing it like probably in a little bit of a wash, kind of like what you have going on. I also really like the washy delay that you have on the vocal. I think you've got some really great stuff here. Check it out from a song story perspective. Think about like, how's the story developing throughout? Are the verses memorable? Are you pulling the listener in? Some of that can be done just with the balance stuff that we talked about, and letting me know who to listen to when, even if you think it's obvious that you should listen to the vocal. So I hope that helps. You said that the vocals feel like they get lost even with automation. Check out your compression levels. Sometimes two-bus compression can be throwing stuff up. You start turning up the vocal, the compressor starts turning it down, and as a result of turning it down, it's bringing up all the drums and all that stuff, and it just gets all washy. So a good exercise on this one might be to bring all the faders down and rebalance it. And you can do a save as. That's the wonderful thing about working with DAWs and everything. Do a save as, bring the faders down, and just play with it, see how it feels. Lots of other great comments on this one too. So as you guys who are new to Mixtank, you can see like the community chimes in and tries to offer constructive feedback for people to bring back. So if you're struggling with a mix, it's a great place to go. And let me get rid of this freaking EQ. I thought I took it off. Hold on a second. This guy. Get out of here. Sorry. Now you can see that there's a lot of comments on the screen and all that. Okay. Moonbert, welcome back from your long meeting. Glad you can make it. Uh, yeah. Danilo, you asked about using a plugin directly on Chrome. Yeah, so I was doing that. I'm using OBS. You guys can go to obsproject.org. It's a streaming software, and it allows you to place plugins on your audio sources. So that's how I was doing that. Yeah, hope that helped. Welcome, Angel. Great to have you here. Let's do another track. Probably do maybe 3 more tracks here. Here we go. Awesome. Okay, Confetti. This is from Handmini U21. His level is passionate. And the name of the song is My Name is Human, revision 1. So I'm going to guess that this is from the Joel Hamilton video on the site by Highly Suspect. Joel Hamilton mixing My Name is Human by Highly Suspect. So Handmini says, thank you so much for your feedback. Felt like the lead vocals are too by themselves, so I created extra space and energy throughout the song. So this is probably a new version of a mix you already submitted. Also, I rebalanced the drum energy and took off some high mid harshness from the guitars. I added some air on top to compensate, and I also tried to control the 70 hertz resonance area on the bass so it sounds less boomy. Cool. Let's see how it's going. Here we go.
Gotta be tough if you're gonna be here. Gotta keep your head up or the view disappears. I'm ready for love and I'm ready for war, but I'm ready for more. I know that nobody's ever been this fucking ready before. Hey. Do you need some time to think it over? So figure it out or don't figure it out. I figured it out. The bigger the river, the bigger the drought. Get up off your knees, boy, stand face to face.
Okay, I want to point something out here. Listen to the word knees and the upper mid range of that. It should be poking out to you. Here we go.
The bigger the drought. Get up off your knees, boy, stand face to face. Your God, find out what you are. Hello, my name is Human. Hello, my name is Human. And I came down from the stars. Hello, my name is Human. Not asking questions, 'cause questions have answers. And I don't want answers, so I'll take my chances. What are the chances that I could advance on my own circumstances? So you keep your answers. Not asking questions, 'cause questions have answers. I'll take my chances. I'm up on my knees, girl. I'm face to face with myself.
I was talking with my mic off. Sorry. Okay, that whistle on the vocal as he moves into the upper register and starts belting is really kind of sticking out. It's like the kind of thing that's happening. For those of you who hear it, I'm sorry. I'm going to play it again. Here we go.
I'm up on my knees, girl. I'm face to face with myself.
And then on face to face, it kind of whistles out again. So it sounds like feedback. Like that's how I think of those resonant things, is like, if you know the sound of feedback from playing out live and all of that, like you've heard feedback before, it's painful. That's what it sounds like when there's resonance that just kind of like get a ton of energy and whistle like that. So I would deal with those things. Again, Soothe is great for them. If you can't address them, like one important way to think about this. So let's say that you have a whistle like this and you take a Pro Q3 and you notch it out when it's happening. unless you're automating that band of EQ, which is a totally valid way to do it and awesome, you're creating a permanent solution to a temporary problem, right? So you have to decide, like, is it a problem globally with the track? And that's how I'll approach the EQ for it. Or is this something that's only happening in a couple different spots? And then you need to find a more temporary solution, because otherwise you're just carving up your signal, right? So automation is key for this. You can automate a band of EQ in and out, or you use something like Soothe, which is going to be more threshold dependent for, like, now there's this big resonant peak that happens in the signal there. And as soon as it crosses that threshold, I'm going to smash it down and take care of it and try to balance it out. The danger in something like using Soothe is it can make you lazy and you're like, just balance my vocal and I'll just mix it in. And yeah, that's cool. Better if you're more intentional and actually stopping to say, like, what is it that I hear? In this case, it's a resonant peak on knees, face. Whenever he's hitting that note, there's a big burst of energy that's coming out. So dealing with that will also help you place your vocal. Because when you're automating, if you're not necessarily aware that you're hearing that resonant peak, but you just are knowing, like, oh, the vocal feels really loud here, I'm going to bring it down. It will make automating that vocal a lot harder. So if you balance it out, if you just stop and listen and you're like, oh man, there's a really big resonant peak when he screams the word face and knees, I need to address those things. Get it cleaned up, and then now you can make your vocal sit in there a lot easier with automation and everything. So one other thing, like scene changes in songs, I feel like this is another important one. It's something to, like, keep your listener captivated and moving through the entire song. If I'm on a verse, I don't want my guitars, typically, again, all subjective, but I don't want my guitars to necessarily be at the same loudness of the chorus. So if things kind of come down on the verse and we get back into the groove, we give the listener a little bit of a break from, like, the intensity of the rock sound and everything. And then we boost them up when the right before he gets into the get up off your knees. If we use, like, the dynamics of that, like bringing everything kind of down, faders, do some automation, whatever, bring things down in the verses, that'll give you some room to grow and burst and make that chorus just explode, especially if you think about the opportunity that you have with that huge riff going into the chorus. That thing is awesome, and it's like the perfect thing to just be too loud in the mix. It's like sometimes it's fun to have that one thing that's like, that's too loud and it's awesome. You know, that would be a good example of that. So yeah, I'd say, like, check out that. I also want to point out one other thing. I'm going to go to the back here to the very beginning of the song and listen to the bottom of the track, especially in the kick. Feels nice and full.
You gotta be tough if you're gonna be here. Gotta keep your head up or the view disappears.
And then let's go into the chorus here and focus on that kick again.
Face to face with your God, find out what you are. Hello, my name is human. Hello, my name is human.
This song is super cool. I feel like I'm losing all the punch of the kick, and the low end of it is going away. That, you know, it could be like the drummer's just burying the beater into the head now and it's not getting a chance to bloom, but I think it's because there's a sub bass happening and that's eating up the kick drum, so it's kind of masking up the bottom of it. You could resolve that with, like, either doing some side chain compression stuff, or you can just find the EQ point where the bass is eating up the kick and make some room for the kick there. But I feel like we've got a really cool full kick sound happening in the beginning. It's got a little bit of low end bloom to it. And then in the chorus, things get smaller because the low held out extended bass note is just consuming the kick and not allowing us to still have that, like, punch that's driving us through this super intense loud guitar section here. So that's something that'll help you emphasize the groove of the track too, is, like, make sure that that kick is still there and getting those subdivisions and the ones and everything that tell us, like, where's our pocket and all that. So yeah, hope that helps. Super cool track. Watch that video with Joel too. Joel's a beast. Here is my comment. And thanks for submitting. Let's do 2 more. Here we go. All right, this is Jealousy. I know this song, if it's a song I'm thinking of. This is from Juan Valeriano. Sorry, I'm butchering your name. And let's dig in. Okay, here we go, from the top.
Jealousy
Valeriano. There we go.
shows me things I don't want to see. Jealousy holds me back from who I'm meant to be. Why you gotta make me feel so defeated? Why you make me look so green in the eye? Oh, you overpower me so instinctively. Matter where I run, I just can't overcome. I know that you're lying to me, that the grass ain't so green. I know it isn't so, but you won't let me go. Oh, 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 jealousy.
Guys, that freaking vocal, right? She's so good.
Jealousy. You take your knife and you cut it through my heart. Oh, jealousy. Deep in my soul, ripping it apart. Make me think the things that
Hey, I really love the timing of the reverb on the side stick in this section.
cut it through my heart. Oh, jealousy. Deep in my soul, ripping it apart.
Yeah, nice job on that one.
Make me think that things have come to pass when they maybe never happened at all. Oh, you overpower me so instinctively. No matter where I run, I just can't overcome. I know that you're lying to me, that the grass ain't so green. I know it isn't so, but you won't let me go. You grip me with fear. I can't pry myself out your hand.
Okay, I'm gonna pause here. So again, I love the length that you did on the side stick reverb, specifically. That note, like adding to the groove, adding space feels great. It's a little bit bright. That's the only comment I really have about it, is that it feels like there's just a little too high end excitement, like too much for it for the style of music, and it doesn't feel very vintage to me. It feels like exaggerated a hair, but timing and everything, the actual, like, you know, whatever patch you chose, it feels awesome. I just feel like maybe a little less top end on it. The kick, going back to the verse, hearing the kick in there was adding a bit of that brightness on top. I'm wondering if you darken the reverb, if that kick would feel cool in there, or if the kick needs to be in the reverb at all. So maybe something to check out. But the vocal is now in the reverb here too, and might have been earlier, but I'm noticing it now. And I'm feeling like that's doing some weird stuff. So let's listen to this section. I'm listening to the vocal that's on the reverb. Here we go.
Isn't so, but you won't let me go. You grip me with fear. I can't pry myself out your hand.
So we'll do these 2 parts. So grip me with fear, can't prop my help or out your hand. So just listen to how the reverb tail is coming up over the vocal and see if you think it's like hurting the clarity or the groove.
You grip me with fear. I can't prop myself out your hands.
And then I don't hear it on that bloom of hands. So there's just something distracting about it to me. So it's something that's like pulling me out of, I'm listening to a performance. Doesn't necessarily have to feel like it's real, but I'm listening to a performance. I hear this like, either it's a reverb automation trick where you're bringing it up, or it's just happening to bloom at that spot. But it's pulling me out of the mix because it's saying like, listen to this effect. And that's not the focus of the song right now. It's her vocal, the really cool guitar that's going on, the pocket of the song. And I'm just kind of being pulled away from those things. So don't make the reverb the star in this situation. Let it sit back on the track a little bit. Let's listen on. Here we go.
You're always near me, frozen in place where I stand. Oh, jealousy, stop your lying to me. It's not what it seems. Oh, you fill my head with lies, you keep me paralyzed. I know I got to let it go, need some self-control. Look what you're doing to me.
Yeah, this is a good opportunity to talk about balance again. So we have these background vocals come in here. They're freaking beautiful and it's awesome. She's a hell of a singer and supports herself perfectly. But you have her singing her ass off right in the middle, just like nailing the performance. But in terms of the balance, we've taken the background singers, and instead of them being like on the side stage in the back doing the doo-wop thing, they're like right out in front of the stage, like, we're background singers. And she's like, hey, I'm back here like killing it, you know, but she's got her eyes closed and she doesn't notice that her background singers just snuck out and stole the stage from her. So here we go. Security, please.
Oh, jealousy, stop your lying to me. It's not what it seems. Oh, you fill my head with lies, you keep me paralyzed. I know I got to let it go, need some self-control. Look what you're doing to me. I know that I'll never be free. Oh, jealousy, jealousy.
Come on, Brandy. Her name's Brandy. It's Brandy and the Alexanders. I forgot how freaking amazing this is. I was at the session when it was recorded. It's so good, but she's killing it. And these background singers are trying to kick her off stage. Security, get over here. We got to get them out. So I think that those backgrounds just need to come back a little bit and they need to support her just destroying it right now. That doesn't mean that she needs to be so loud and in front that she's painful either. Like she's killing it. She could be back from the mic. We can feel that space and everything. But those background singers, they need to be talked to after the show. That's it. All right, here we go.
Oh, jealousy. Oh, fill my head with lies, you keep me paralyzed. You keep lying to me. Just want to be free. Oh, jealousy. Jealousy.
Cool. Yeah, the vocals bright here. There's some stuff that's jumping out and hitting me. Also, if we think about let's think about the performance for a second too. What is she doing back here where I'm about to play versus what she's doing in this last verse? And where's the comparative level of those? Is there something happening that's pulling me out of like suspension of disbelief that I'm listening to a record or I'm listening to a performance or am I listening to a recording? So I'm going to check it out from the loud section where she's really biting in. She should be loud as hell. Not necessarily should be loud in the mix, but like if you were standing in front of her, she would be loud as hell and like your skin would be peeling off of your face from how much she's killing it.
Lies, you keep me paralyzed. You keep lying to me. Just want to be free. Oh, jealousy. Jealousy.
So yeah, just the automation bump that's happening in her vocal doesn't feel natural to me. And especially like you feel it come up, you're riding the fader up on the run down, and then she's very loud and upfront and present. She probably just beat up the background singers and took the stage back right there. That's really what we're going for. But yeah, so just something to watch out. There's some resonant peaks happening in there. The piano feels like it has a little bit of like widening stuff on it that feels a little unnatural. The track I know was recorded amazingly by Mick and Guzowski. You guys can also download these stems. You can watch the video of Fab mixing this, I believe, on the site. I think Mick is also mixing this on the site. But yeah, you guys can download the stems and play with it as well. But yeah, overall, man, I was like, despite feeling like the background singers need to be like tackled by security and, you know, because they're stealing the show, you had a great energy going in that section where I was like rediscovering the song that, like, believe me, as like content manager and doing all the content, like, or the video promotion around these things and all of that. I've heard this song like probably 300 times and I haven't been this excited about it in a long time. Not that it's not a great song. It's amazing, but I heard it a lot and I feel like I'm rediscovering it. So you've got some things happening in your mix that are really, really awesome. And they got me pretty jazzed about it. And yeah, thinking that we need to call security jokes. So, okay. Martin says, let's switch on the security plugin. Yeah, that's awesome. There's the next cartoon plugin, guys. Somebody out there needs to make a security plugin that's just like a brutal compressor that just like football tackles a lead singer or something like that. Yeah, so it'll be like the next sausage fattener, the security guard. There you go. All right, somebody make that. I want it. Okay, so let's do one more track before we get out of here. Here we go. Confetti. Oh, I was already here. This is Foreplay DJ Smile at the beginning of the video. Okay. This song is Black Rabbit from CNOTY 6. It says, thanks all for your insight and help. Opened up the Aramora on the 2 channel and a slight boost of 8K. Also pushed the drums a bit forward in the mix, which does seem to bring additional energy. Also, per the earlier review suggestion, built room around the entire band. Okay, so we might have touched this one last week, and it looks like another submission. Here we go.
I was up all night, socializing, trying to keep the latent depression from crystallizing. Now the sun is lurking just behind the Scarborough horizon, and you're not even here. I took in young streets at a glance, heard the Parkers playing, watch the bikers dance.
Just going to comment as I go here. So as the band enters in, there's a lot of noise on the left side, and a couple tracks back, there was one where the noise felt cool to me. This is a case of the noise feeling a little distracting. If it was down a little bit, it might be okay, but maybe some compression's bringing it up, whatever it happens to be. But there's a lot of noise on the left side of the mix, and it's pulling me out of the mix. The other thing is the organ. When it enters, there's a very, very steep resonance, maybe 4K. That's my favorite number today. So I would check that out. That's something that you could, make a sharp cut with. Maybe you automate it if it's not a problem for everything else, but it could probably be very sharp and otherwise maybe unnoticeable. But yeah, it's not like a pleasant overtone of the organ. It's like louder than the rest of the signal and biting my ear a little bit. So let's go on from here.
I took in young streets at a glance, heard the Parkers playing.
Yeah, so it's actually moving. It's one of the drawbars on the very, very top was pulled out a little too far, in my opinion, because it's sticking out on top of the rest of the chord. But this would be a good case for Soothe, again, or something like Surfer EQ also does things like this, but it'll actually track, what resonance is poking out and kind of deal with it. But I would find like a range in Soothe, you would just boost up like a range of it, and then it would, naturally take those out. You could be fairly sharp on the selection of frequencies with it, and hopefully it would kind of naturally make that, you don't have to completely get rid of it. It's a cool harmonic, but tuck it back a little bit.
Watch the bikers dance, Everybody wishing they could go to the south of France, and you're not even here on the coldest night of the year. Hey, look at me now, see the shape I'm in. It's taken me so long to catch on to what's going on inside this skin. When two lovers really love, there's nothing there but the suddenly compact universe of flesh and breath and hair.
Got some recording artifact stuff like that noise. I just heard like a pop, and I thought a drop out in there too. So it almost feels like bad tape or something.
Of flesh and breath and hair.
Yeah, so just watch for little stuff like this click that happens after the dropout in the, feels like tape dropping out or old tape or something. There's a dropout, and then there's this harsh click right there. Isotope declick would take care of that in like no time flat. So it's awesome. Just on default settings either. You don't have to mess with like wideness and all that. Just open up the isotope declick, hit render, you're done. That would take care of it. The dropout's a little bit different of a story, and I don't know how in depth you want to get with restoration and all that, but yeah, let's keep going here. I'd love to know what the distortion is that's in the recording of this track, like what this was recorded on. Black Rabbit, if you're on here, let us know how this is tracked in the chat, because I think it's tape. It sounds like kind of like tape distortion, but I'm not positive. So it sounds cool though, and I like it, and I want it. So let us know what it is.
All night.
It actually reminds me of Mellify's Drive a little bit, which is where I'm thinking like the tape thing and all that. And the A800, I think the Studer plugin feels like that.
TV show in the all-night bar. Drove all the people home. I was the one with the car. Now I'm sitting here alone and sleepless and wondering where you are. Wishing.
Yeah, I wanted to comment too. The kick drum feels like it was from a drum machine. I don't know. Again, like if this was on tape and you're working with it from that, like this, it'd be a little bit more complex. But the kick drum feels like it's got a lot of attack on it to me, like it's a bright attack. For the style, I almost want to hear like a low, like boomy kick drum with like, almost like a, half note length or something like that, but just something that's like kind of booming out, but also like keeping that groove, that pocket in there. So yeah, I think like a little bit of a duller kick drum that's like not as slappy. This isn't like Metallica level slappy, but something with a little bit less bite on it might be cool for the track, like more style appropriate. The other thing is like, I dig the decision of not using hi-hat to keep the rhythm. You have that shaker going, but the shaker and the acoustic guitar are going to have to be tight for those to not fight with each other. So that's just something to listen for.
You were here on the coldest night of the year.
Oh, sorry, we do have hi-hat now. I think I meant back in the other verse.
Sitting here alone and sleepless, wondering where you are. wishing you were here on the coldest night.
And we've got a little bit of a groove thing happening on the fill here. So yeah, we'll check out the end of the song and see what else is there. If I can get 3 of you guys to like this video right now, then we'll do another song after this. Just 3 people. That's it. So, yeah. And reminder for all the YouTubey stuff of like and subscribe and all that jazz so we can keep doing this. All right, here we go.
You were here on the coldest night of the year.
That tape is distracting again. Yeah, David, thank you. Cool. Yeah, cool. And then we got a long fade at the end. Really cool track. Somebody in the chat pointed out, Daniel Myers pointed out, this song has a Route 66 dive bar feel. Totally agree, and it like transports you right to it. Karen Bassett asks, what is that clipping sound like horse hooves? I think that there was some percussion in there, which I was going to comment feels pretty cool. I think it has a lot of high mid-range though, and this is something track wide, and it looks like on my screen here, Sonic Science Lab pointed it out as well, to watch out for the high mids. The vocal gets a little bit harsh and pokey at spots. Something to check out there. You might want to bring a little bit more body into the vocal if you can without it getting muddy. Or just check out, some EQ stuff around, again, like kind of that 2K-ish area, 2.5K area. Yeah, and I'd say at the end, watch the groove. There's something that felt a little weird on one of the fills. The percussion's super cool. If that could be in its own space and coming up among the kit and everything and supporting it, that would be cool. And again, just on the style of the kick drum, like the timbre of it, it's very attacky and could probably be a little bit more chill, even moving into the section. Or you could automate like a little bit of an EQ boost if you want to do like a more dull kick in the verses and then have something with just a hair more attack. Not so that you hear the EQ move, but just so that it gives us a little bit more punch as you move into it. I hope that that's helpful, Black Rabbit. Thanks for submitting the new version of this, and good luck with it. It's a super cool track. And again, it sounds like you're bringing it back from something that was recorded from a different format or something. It's pretty neat. So yeah, good luck. I hope it's useful. And again, guys, if anybody has more questions about any of my comments, or if you want to chat about it, or just send me an angry email about security, you can do it at mark@puremix.net. So let's do one more track and then we'll call it a day. So here we go. Draw a track. Man, we really appreciate you guys showing up in here in the chat and everything too. It's so great to have you guys in here and like have you coming. Some of you I've seen like the last couple of Mondays, which is awesome. And you've been around in the chats for a while and from the Andrew show and everything. Really appreciate you guys showing up. It's really, really helpful and helps us keep going. Okay, this is from Mingar at theinter.net.au. I remember this one from last week, so I'm going to do one more. We'll draw another one here. So Why Don't You Love Me from CW Carter 13. I don't know you yet. That's probably part of it. Otherwise, like you got the sunglasses are, they're not straight on your face. That's not making me love you right now, but we should see what's in the song. Here we go.
keep fighting against the end of the world. The flood of my emotion keeps pulling me under. My voice splits the air. Every word is like thunder. I want what I want. Just give me what I want. Get away from me. Why don't you love me? Leave me alone. Why don't you love me? And I can't stand you. Why don't you love me? Now I hate me. Why don't you love me? The more I take, the more I know you care. When the price of my choice is more than I can bear.
I love this freaking little sub melody here. That sound is awesome.
Is my only way to pay you. My happiness is in the shiny and new. I want what I want. Just give me what I want. Get away from me. Why don't you love me? Leave me alone. Why don't you love me? I can't stand you. Why don't you love me? I hate me. Why don't you love me? I want you to see me, but I can't stand when you look at me. I want you to love me, but I can't stand when you give me what I need. I want what I want. Just give me what I want. Get away from me! Why don't you love me? Leave me alone! Why don't you love me? I cannot stand you! Why don't you love me? I hate me! Why don't you love me? 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 I hate me.
Awesome. So over the course of the song, I was considering why I don't love you, and I'm starting to come around, for sure. So no, in all seriousness, this is super cool. I love this. You've got a bit of a lot of like a Nine Inch Nails vibe thing happening, and those response vocals of "Why Don't You Love Me" in the chorus feel very Depeche Mode to me. I freaking love this style, so I think that you're like killing it. It's really really cool. They're what happened? All right. He says, this is an original piece I wrote with a couple buddies. I'm still struggling to get punch and energy out of drums and mixes, but think I've come pretty close on this one. I'm also hoping that I start getting a grip on adding energy and movement throughout the song. As always, looking forward to hearing your feedback. So, yeah, it's totally freaking haunting, Martin. I agree. This is cool. So David says I wouldn't mind a little more kick drum. I would agree. So when things get big, I want some more support and foundation in the bottom to like really, really kind of punch and feel like it's a solid, big, massive thing that's like it's just like 1,000 pound weight just like moving through and like mowing cars over and everything. There's some things like in the guitars when we go into the guitars, I feel like the tones are so kind of like harsh and uh not in a bad way, but familiar, where I think that some more texture could be added to those guitars. So there's a plugin that I really like. It's called Crush with a K, Krush, from a company named Tritech, Tritek, and it's free, and it's a bit crushing plugin. And what I'll do on guitars like this sometimes, where it has this more industrial feel, but I want it to feel like grainy and not like I could go to Guitar Center and buy like whatever the pedal is that they're hawking and get that tone. I want something that I can't buy at Guitar Center, right? And you have that going on with so many other textures and sounds inside of this track that when I get to the big guitars doing the power chord slides, the parts are great, but I feel like the guitar tone is yeah, it's so familiar. It's like something that I would expect to hear at Guitar Center. So without sounding mean or anything like that. So I'll use something like the Tritech Crush or the Auto Biscuit is awesome from UAD. But yeah, Tritech Crush is free. Just bit crushing, and you don't have to like overdo it, do mix to 100%. You can just kind of blend in a little bit of like this bit crushing sound, and it'll give this like really grainy texture that would feel really in really in context with everything else that's happening here in the like more post-industrial sounds that are happening. Your vocal at the end is freaking killer. Awesome job on the scream. I'm wondering if you could push that into distortion more, and as you do, bringing the fader back and just kind of like tucking it right behind some of the other elements. Like again with the hand thing, I'm sorry, but if you think about like where are things sitting in this mix, if the vocal, like the lead vocal and the rest of it, while it's telling us the lyric and the story, is kind of sitting in front of everybody or around like the same level as the snare in this case, like in a rock track. If you think about the balance of it, I like to think about the Foo Fighters with this a lot, because in a Foo Fighters track, like the recent records that Daryl Thorpe mixed, I feel like our snare drum is here and Dave is kind of like back here, especially when he's screaming and crazy, and the guitars are like slightly out in front of the snare. Right. And Dave's like behind all of this stuff, and it sounds like he's trying to shout over top of the band. So he's like really just going to town like you are at the end of the song. But he can't quite get over the band, but you hear him and your ear is like trying to get around everybody else to try and hear what he's saying. Like, oh, we're going to get you out of there, Dave. Don't worry. But yeah, like that rage of not being able to be heard, that emotion with a screaming vocal is really, really cool. So just thinking about stuff like that as you go in, like, where do I want things to appear front to back and all of that, I think is huge for figuring out balance. Yeah. So again, like I'm missing a little bit of like sub, some bottom in the track. I love like the rhythmic pattern that you have going on the noise at the end with the motors spinning and stuff. There's a plugin called Wires from Audio Thing that's amazing for this, and not that you need anything because it sounds great, but I love that plugin, so I just thought I'd say that, I guess. Okay, I want to listen just to the chorus one more time. Here we go.
Just give me what I want. Get away from me. Why don't you love me?
Yeah, background vocals could probably come up a little bit. And yeah, that I'd love to hear like what something more textural on the guitar distortion would do for it. They're a little nasally right now too. I'm noticing that. And then the other thing was like with the drum samples, they feel like samples to me. So anything you can do to kind of add some more natural feel to those, I think will like help sell it. So yeah, a little bit more room space. Again, like the UAD Ocean Wave plugin is, that's how I would solve that issue if I was sent like the multi-track for this or something. So, if you think it's an issue. Yeah. Thank you, David, for putting that in the chat. That's the plugin there. And it's free. Karen says that she was listening to this on her phone speaker and it sounded good. So you're passing the phone test. Great job. Primetime says, great track. Alexandra says, hello. Hello. Awesome. So, yeah, I think that about does it. I really like this song, Carter. Great job. And yeah, you won me over by the end of it. I love you now. There you go. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. Please do all the likey, subscribe things and ringing of bells and whatever it is that you do on Twitch. Give us the Twitches and likes on Facebook and all that stuff. It helps us keep these things going. Again, we got a whole bunch of new stuff coming up for you guys. Andrew Shep's Intro to Atmos video out on Puremix tomorrow. Andrew Shep's mixing Hosier's Movement in Atmos on Puremix next Friday. There's the conclusion to the Vance Powell start to finish series coming really soon. And so many other things planned for the year. It's going to get pretty freaking awesome as we move through the summer into the fall and into the winter. We have some super special stuff planned. So don't forget, also June 20, sorry, don't let me lie to you guys here. Let me find the right date for this. June 29th, Pro Member Mix Fix with Fab DuPont featuring Ill Factor, producer that you've probably seen on YouTube and on the Start to Finish series on Puremix.net. 2:30 p.m. He's going to be taking a Pro Members track with Ill Factor. They're going to be mixing it, on the air from scratch. And then I'll see you guys back here July 11th, 2:30 p.m. I'm out on vacation for the next 2 weeks. I'll be thinking about you and checking in on Mixtank and stuff. And if I get a chance, I'll leave some comments on your tracks on Mixtank. So keep submitting, and I'll see you guys back live on the 11th. So yeah, again, thanks so much, you guys, for tuning in and watching. Thank you so much for hopping in the live chat, and look forward to getting back and doing this again on the 11th. See you then.